Hello, everyone. This is Theo from Making It Make Sense with Isaiah, Jasper, and Theo. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and listen out for new episodes every Friday. Follow us on Instagram and leave us a comment at Making It Make Sense IJT, or email us at Making It Make Sense with IJT at gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Hi, everyone. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. 1, it's free. 2, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. 3, Anchor will distribute your podcast so that everyone can hear it, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. It is everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So go ahead, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Ow.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is Theo, and welcome to Making It Make Sense with Isaiah, Jasper, and Theo. Today, we're going to talk about reality TV producers getting praised for exploiting racial stereotypes. But before we do that, just want to let you guys know that you can reach us at our Instagram, Isaiah_Jasper_Theo_. And you can also reach out to us at our email, making it make sense with IJT@gmail.com. All right, people.
Mm-hmm.
Or should I say, all right, Negroes?
Yes, come on, Negroes.
So what do we think about this reality TV producers getting praised for exploiting racial stereotypes?
I'm going to let Jasper go before me because I really appreciate his... Because I don't know if the listeners know. So, Avi, we talk offline. You know what I'm saying? But yesterday, you made some really good points about that. So I think you should reiterate that for the listeners as well.
Okay. I forgot what I'm
Well, you know what? This giggles fest. I would like let's define racial stereotypes or ethnic stereotypes. It involves part of a system and belief about typical characteristics of members of a given ethnic group, nationality, their status, and cultural norms. That's very like cerebral, no?
Yeah, incredibly, but I enjoy it. I enjoy that.
So Jasper, perhaps this is a topic that we discussed prior to being on here, and Jasper did have some really good points that he made. But I think we can discuss. Well, I think we can see all these racial stereotypes in everything that we see in television, from reality TV, from scripted TV, and all TV.
Absolutely.
And it's unfortunate now that for a very long time in television, the only thing that's been acceptable is the stereotypes of people of color. Absolutely. The stereotypes of gay people, the stereotypes of Black women, the stereotypes of Asian people are the only kind of digestible characters that people seem to want to gravitate to on television.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
So, and it's unfortunate now that reality TV seems to be extremely popular now. Like the ratings for reality TV, it beats scripted television. And on reality TV, a good example that I have in my head that comes right away
Mhm.
is Love and Hip Hop.
Oh yeah,
If that
absolutely,
isn't screaming racial stereotypes, I don't know what is.
absolutely.
And that watching that show sometimes makes me cringe. And that's why when Love and Hip Hop Miami came along, I really appreciated the character or really appreciate the character of Amara La Negra, because she is the antithesis of everything that she should not be. She is Latina and she's dark skinned. She's a Latina and she has an afro, and she expresses her Latinx, for lack of a better word,
Mhm.
in a way that a lot of people do not think that it should not be done, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you think, Isaiah?
I mean, one of the things that I feel like um really, and this is so for me, just like you kind of had top of mind was Love and Hip Hop. So top of mind for me, just when it comes to and this is like just kind of almost like a generalization on especially what we're seeing now. So wherein it pertains to integrating casts, right? So in instances, for example, like Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, integrating Garcelle, and integrating who is a woman of color, and integrating Crystal Cunningham Goff, who is also a woman of color, or Real Housewives of New York City, where we're seeing the integration of Ebony K. Williams, who I love.
Oh Lord.
Um, but
Ooh, child.
No
there,
comment.
there's a lot of um, I feel like there's a lot of instances where I mean, for lack of better saying it, but a lot of these white women are having conversations that I don't know that they are ever have ever had before. I mean, not much less on television in their personal lives. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if they're having those conversations in their personal lives. But I will say in those instances, I don't know that those women are so much stereotypical versus like a Love and Hip Hop or something like that where
Versus being obnoxious, something like
right. Yeah, I mean essentially. Essentially, and like you know here's the thing, and don't get me wrong, my belief system is also that we're not a monolith, and that you know we all fall along the spectrum of whatever that may be for you and your experience,
that.
right?
Mm-hmm.
However, I feel like it's exploitative in cases of like Love and Hip Hop, where it's just like, okay, well, on TV this is digestible, but then in real life, you that's not digestible in real life for certain sets of white spaces. If we're being super honest, you love watching it on TV, but would you have a friendship with a person that you feel behaves a certain way or like that in real life?
Or where you want your son and daughter to marry that and bring that into the family.
Absolutely. So you'll watch it and be entertained by it, but are you also remembering that yes, this is entertaining for you to watch, but these are real people, and there are people that are similar to the people that you are seeing on screen,
Yeah.
and I mean for me, and I had this conversation with a non person of color friend the other day, where I was explaining that um I always felt like uh, in a lot of white spaces that I was a digestible person of color. I was a digestible black man, right? Non quote unquote non-threatening and not aggressive and all of those things. So then when you turn on the TV and I'm like, oh, okay, well, all right, well they can just be all of the colors of who they are on this show, but I can't act like that in real life because I mean,
Isaiah,
you know.
you know what's a good thing? You just said, and I
Mm,
think you should explain a little bit more.
mhm.
What does a digestible black person look like, and what does that mean?
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for bringing that to my attention. Yes, because I'm assuming all the listeners know what. So, a digestible black person. Now, I'm going to say this, or digestible person of color rather, but I'm going to speak just from the place of a digestible black person because that's the only experience I can speak to, right? Um, so for me, that's even growing up, it would be certain situations where, okay, well, you're not boisterous or loud, or you're what how is it they say you're the little microaggressive shit, oh, you're so well spoken and you're so intelligent, and
God.
oh, don't even get me started, and like, and and you're well, no, I don't mean like that, you know what I mean, like that mess, like, oh no, well, you're not, like, you're different, like that kind of crap, so microaggressions kind of begetting that digestible persona, right, that they see about, or they have of you, or view they have of you. And it's really just, you know, they can stomach, if we're breaking it down, they can stomach that just enough to be like, okay, yes, we can be friends because we can level and understand each other. And maybe we like some of the same music, and maybe we enjoy some of the same shows. And maybe we can have conversations where we really relate to one another. However, that's heavily based on the fact that you speak a certain way as this digestible black person, you behave a certain way, and you almost you're watering yourself down a bit so that you can exist in this space peacefully without
Mm.
being pushed back. Right.
You meet all the criterias that whiteness finds acceptable and black and
Yes,
defines as black.
absolutely. Absolutely. And so when you see, it's and I'm going to take it a step further to where there are instances where I've watched shows, and obviously in my adulthood, it's a little bit different because you grow and you shift and you change and you come more into yourself, but and you're kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to be my most authentic self, right? You're not going to be digestible just to be digestible because somebody else wants you to be. But I'm going to go a step further to say, um, sometimes you'll watch these shows and you'll go, well, man, I wish, I wish I could be as boisterous and authentic that way, and just be my truest self. If that is in fact you, right? Because again, every experience is different. But it's kind of like envious because you're like, okay, well, I wish I could act out whenever I felt like it and say what I felt like saying and stuff like that in every situation. Um, but I can't. So and it breeds kind of like a, mild envy, but then also you're just like there are people that are also a little resentful because you're just like, okay, well, all right, well, I'm glad you can get up and act like that. But again, I cannot. So,
Lord. And Jasper, what about you?
yeah.
Um, I agree. I agree with everything that you said so far. I do feel like we have even television, even movies, they have stereotypical things. I think that it's very problematic when producers of films or television or anything like that in the genre are celebrated for exploiting and perpetuating these stereotypes, because how are we supposed to move forward and grow as a people if everything we constantly see produced and put on our screens are the negative stereotypes that we are prejudged by? And so I think it's very problematic for them to celebrate producers that do that. There are producers that have tried to find a balance and shift and try to do more positive content and produce more positive shows and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
there are those producers that like Mom Scott Young who Love Hip Hop. She continues to produce that show, that franchise. So
Mhm.
she keeps producing those negative stereotypes. We see those toxic relationships, this and that. So I think that people, who produce these shows need to take a step back and look and realize, like, if you want to bring people together when they see your show, then you need to kind of work on what you're bringing, what you're creating,
Mhm.
because we know there's stereotypes out there. We know there's stereotypes, and we don't have to always use them as a tool to draw in viewers and draw in the crowd and draw in box office numbers. They shouldn't have to rely on those because you can produce great films and stuff like that without necessarily going to those stereotypical things to put in the films.
Without
So
the
I
coonery and buffoonery.
yes.
Coonery and buffoonery. That's it.
Hashtag it, y'all. Coonery and buffoonery. Hashtag
Hashtag
it.
coonery and
But you
buffoonery.
but haven't you noticed that the coonery and the buffoonery has evolved throughout the years in television and film? Like, remember
Yes.
the stereotypical black person was the, oh, you master, so, and it's evolved from that to, the baby daddy, the one that can stay monogamous, the player, and all this ugliness,
Mhm.
and the
Oh
loud,
yes.
ratchet black girl, and so on and so forth. It has
Okay.
evolved to
Okay.
this thing that is just makes my skin crawl.
Yes, and it definitely has evolved, and that's why I have such an issue with Tiffany Haddish because I feel like she's a walking stereotype.
Oof.
Like all we know is everything she does, she's being ratchet, ghetto, and loud. Like, I don't think she sees it, and if she does, I don't think she cares because
Mhm.
of the financial gain and success.
Mhm.
Like you are the stereotype. You are the walking stereotype. And you giving them what they want. Like that you live and breathe what they think we are. So I find her definitely a problem. And like I said, it's been going on since the 50s. Since the 50s and 40s and on and beyond that, like of these stereotypical things that they've done in the film industry. So I think that film and television industry, and I
Mhm.
think that it should have by now we should have seen some growth. We should have seen some change and transitions beyond that. But unfortunately, because we have reality television and we have reality TV, that now it's on an unscripted spectrum. They really can run, which they really can stretch it out and really, really expound on stereotypes and really, really cast people to portray certain stereotypes. Their caricatures, so they are casted for each particular stereotype that there is of black people.
I
And so I just,
agree.
I hate that this is what we have to look at. And this is what's now.
And the thing too I want to add is on top of that too is I feel like you're finding that like in reality TV spaces, and then and to kind of coincide with what Theo was saying, where ratings for reality TV are higher than for scripted TV, but scripted TV is where you're finding some, and not all the time, but some of the better representation for African Americans specifically, and I mean people of color in general, but I mean, from Blackish to, you know what I mean? Like you're having there's better representation there in scripted TV than there is in reality TV. And
Oh,
not
crazy.
not to say like I don't want to make a total generalization and say like, every reality TV person of color, is just giving us that negative stereotype, but it's just more often than not, that's what's getting the ratings,
Yeah. But look at also you said what's the TV show you just said?
Blackish.
Blackish, which I love and I'm upset that it's leaving us.
I know.
Mm,
But
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 Uh,
I love Grey's Anatomy.
oh my God, me too.
The rainbow of people of color shown in
Yes.
that show and the levels of people of color emotionally, psychologically, intellectually
Yeah.
is what you want to see on television and what you want to see projected of you. And that's why that show has been around for 17 years,
Yes.
which I can't even understand because I
Like
remember the first
fathom.
episode.
And
So that means I'm
that
getting old.
you bring up such a good point with that though too, with Grey's Anatomy specifically. And I think I feel, I don't know, I'm getting like having deja vu a little bit. Like the three of us had like a similar conversation like this before, where I made a comment about that. That the way Shonda Rhimes designs her casting and her shows, or the landscape of her shows, in order to reflect that of what the world outside looks like, instead of going, I mean, like, you know, I mean, do I need to talk about Friends and how y'all in New York City and not one black person except Aisha Tyler? But anyway, so
Amen.
okay, but like, just the lack of, another show, Sex in the City. Now listen, am I gonna sit here and lie and act like I haven't watched it through a couple of times? No. But like, but again, what they got, a prominent ended up having a prominent man of color featured in a storyline, what, a couple of seasons in, you know? So
After people complain is when oh look, by the way, we found a Negro.
right. Oh, look over there. You know, and then of course they pick, like, you know, I mean, Lord, I love me some Blair Underwood, but like, of course you're gonna pick Blair Underwood because even the white women love Blair Underwood.
But
So
that's
you
why
know,
I couldn't
fandom.
relate to Friends. As someone that lives in New York City,
Mhm.
grew up in New York City,
Mhm.
I saw Friends, and I was like, "What? This is New York, like New York, Netherlands, New York." And that's why I gravitated to something more like Living Single. I don't even know where the hell they were,
Oh,
but
love.
They was in the
living.
brownstone.
Where were they?
They lived in New York. I think Brooklyn. They was in the
Yes, in a
brownstone. They in the
brownstone.
And
brownstone in
I could
Brooklyn. Yeah.
relate, and could relate to Living Single. I
Mhm.
love Living Single,
Oh yeah.
and you cannot tell me a goddamn thing about Living Single.
I loved Kyle.
I love me
He
some
was my
Maxine
favorite.
Shaw.
Yeah,
Oh my
Maxine was my
God.
favorite. That was my
Right?
favorite.
Maxine Shaw kept me
Yes.
rolling
And mind
everywhere.
you, Maxine could be just as ratchet as the next person,
Oh,
but that
absolutely.
wasn't everything about her. She was a
It wasn't.
multi-layered individual.
Yes,
And all of them, they were a rainbow of people of color.
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
You
And
had
it was
you had Regine all the way to, I mean, everybody. I love me some Regine. She killed me.
they were all
And
entertaining.
oh yeah,
They
And, it,
equally were. They equally were.
absolutely.
and they were all equal, yes, equal. And from my understanding, Friends was trying to copy from this.
Yes. Yeah.
Took the whole concept and then just tweaked towards it and made it more of course whited up and and it's kind of, it sucks because Friends lasted twice as long as Living Single.
And they were
Living Single
getting
Yeah,
only
paid
you're
lasted five
right.
years,
and they
so
were
it's
getting
like
paid way more too.
wait, yeah, $1
Yeah.
million an episode, so
Yeah.
they was making money
Yeah,
from
especially
them.
because Living Single was originally on Fox, and
Yep,
then Friends was on NBC.
yep,
So the disparity between, I'm sure, what you make on those networks too alone. I mean,
Big difference.
big
yeah,
difference.
yeah, but
But I have a question for you, Jasper.
mm-hmm,
What do you think? I don't even know the lady's name. I don't know if she's even if she's an attorney, but
mm-hmm.
the one that they casted for New York Housewives, what's her name? Ebony.
Oh,
Ebony
Ebony K.
Williams,
Williams.
What
Ebony
do you
K.
think about
Williams.
her?
When I first found out they casted her, I was like, "Ooh, okay." They diversifying the cast, and
Mm-hmm.
After
and,
10 years.
yeah, after 10 years, and
Mm-hmm.
she's gonna be, gonna
13
add
years.
something spicy to it. But then, like as the seasons went on, I'm starting not to like her because I feel like she's trying to. You can't make 50+ year old women have the mindset that you have, and I feel like every episode she wants to preach about race. She wants to have this segments of educational tools and dialogue. Like these women don't care. Like you can't make them care. Like it's draining to watch it because we don't mind seeing that, but every episode it's a lesson and a racial lesson. Like she's turning me off,
Oh,
and that's not good. Like you're the first black woman on the show. Like
It
because I
seems very forced.
very
There's nothing organic about her existence.
on
in
the
that show,
show. That's true.
and even the
Yeah.
conversations that she's having.
I I do want to add, and like this is just, and maybe it's because in a sense I I I felt very much like I had conversations like that around, like, because thinking in terms of when the filming took place for that, in that time frame and before that, like that's the kind of stuff I was like, but not maybe so much like like going in and kind of going, okay, let me teach. But like, if someone asked me or reached out to me, or if they asked me, hey, did you ever, did I ever offend you or hurt your feelings, or whatever the case is, or did I ever say something? Oh, I was letting people have it. And I'm talking about friendships that I've had for a long time. And not that those friendships don't still exist, but, and Jasper, I agree with you on the older the women are, it's kind of like, okay, it's like almost like it's falling on deaf ears. But I feel like if you have, and again, like I said, we're not a monolith, so everyone's going to approach things differently. Me, because I felt like I've set in a lot of white spaces, like growing up, like my whole life.
I'm sorry to hear.
Yeah.
Oh my
Very
gosh,
sorry.
I can't. Y'all better quit. So like, but I feel like because I've existed in a lot of white spaces my whole life, for the people that really didn't get it, I'd be like, and because of the things I've heard in certain spaces too, I felt like, okay, well, this is, for a time, it was like, well, this is my responsibility, until I got to the space where I always tell you guys, I'm not having those conversations anymore. Go read a book, right? But for a long time, I felt like I was the ebony, like a lot, where I'd be like, okay, well, if you don't know now, you know, nigga. Like I'm gonna tell you what it is, because also, now I don't, because the thing with these shows too is you're getting like, an hour. So like there's a lot of stuff in between, or conversations and
There
stuff like
must be
that.
some really
Thank
bad editing.
God. Thank
There
God for
must be
that.
some bad
Thank
editing.
and
God.
in that case, absolutely. Now I could see also how it would be a turn off to watch, but then experiencing it in real life,
It's
where
different.
somebody said, like, a white person says something slick to you in real life, and you have to read them about how you are not going to push these microaggressions in my path. You are not going to, here's what we are going to do. This is inappropriate. Like, it's exhausting
Yeah, but you know what? I don't see that
to do.
there. I see, because a lot of reality TV is also very scripted.
That's true. That's true.
And I don't see the
That's
same
true.
energy that they have when they want to script, the baby daddy drama, the two girls
Mm-hmm.
fighting each other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the organized, structured anything in what it is that she's doing. It seems very sloppy and disorganized.
Oh, like there's not like a
Yeah, like there's no
like a
blueprint or.
right.
But maybe they
And
want it to
that's
be like that. Maybe they want it to be, unorganized. Because I feel like,
that's true.
because I feel like what you're saying, I feel like the difference is in this situation with her, she decides to have these events to educate them. It's not like they're having a confrontation and then she's, oh, let me tell you real quick, don't you ever talk to me like that, because I am a black woman and I will not let you degrade me. It's a lesson. You teaching me about she teaching them about like people, jazz people, and historical figures. Like, girl, like we having a dinner. Like, I'm not trying. Yeah, I'm a black person. I definitely would be
Mm.
like, I love Rashawn, the other black girl, because she like me. Like, girl, you can, we get it. Like, you ain't got every time we get together, we do not have to have a lesson,
Mm-hmm.
because they not gonna listen. You got women who are in their 50s plus who have did a long time. They're not. You're not gonna change their mindset.
Mm-hmm.
If they
Like,
haven't had a black friend all these years, they ain't gonna have one now.
and if
And
no,
that's
and if they had one, their black friend didn't do this. They just say, "Oh, it is what it is." Like, this is who they are
or at least on camera.
on camera.
You
You
know
know
what
what
I
I'm saying?
mean? Exact that part. And that's the thing too, is like, I think like there are definitely things where, I mean, so from my husband to my close friend, like, and stuff like that, where if I'm on it now, I can't speak to if I were like on a platform like that where, like, people are watching. I mean, my God, like there's definitely certain things you might not say, but like if in my it might, and maybe it's also, let me say it from this place. Also, I think because I was so on fire and like, I mean, still am in some ways, which you guys have heard in some of our off, while we're not, podcasting conversation. I've been very set off anyway and on fire. So there's certain instances where I'm having conversations that look like that, like a little bit in my personal life.
But
So
really,
like,
I think yours are a little bit more organic, Isaiah.
probably. I mean, and not to take away, because unpopular opinion, I really do. Let me say it this way, because I don't personally know her. I appreciate what it might be trying to do. I get it, but also to your point, Jasper, with Bershawn. Now I like her energy. I don't really care for Bershawn. That's just me.
Nah.
I don't care for her, but I like what I like her idea of let's have fun. And
She will not be back next season.
You don't think? Yeah, she
will be.
You think
she'll
so?
be back, and she'll be taking Ebony's place.
Oh, I don't think. I will say I don't think they're gonna get rid of Ebony though because of the way it would look. That's the only. I don't.
So what?
No, they're gonna replace her. That's what they're gonna do.
What is Ebony's profession? What is she?
Oh, they're gonna pull a Fresh Prince and just take out all of it.
And FYI, Ebony lost her law license.
She did.
So this show was doing some damage to her career. Yes.
She was a lawyer. Wow.
Yes, they lost her law license.
Why?
That's a good question. I saw it on the thing this morning. Yeah, they suspended her license, and I'm guessing the show
they can do that because why are they not doing that to Emily Simpson's ratchet behind over in OC? Because she a white woman. Got it. Check.
Oh, there you go.
But that doesn't mean racial. See, that's another. That's always have to be like a racial thing. It could be something she's done. But
did you? She might be raggedy.
No, but they said she didn't pay her fees.
Oh, that's different.
Okay. Oh, so
and she got money. Like you getting a Bravo check, like I said.
Oh no, but by the way, do you see how Ebony on New York Housewives? But then you see Garcelle and what's the Housewives of? What's that one?
Hills,
right? Of Beverly Hills. You see how organic that is, though.
Because Garcelle's not trying to force this racial stuff. Garcelle's Garcelle. She's giving you fun. She's being a diva.
And
she's giving you
attitude. And Garcelle is Haitian, so it gets no black and no more Africa. Second to Africa, Haiti is just the shit.
And she would check you, and she has had to get some girls together on that show when
and
they
she
need
has
to be together. But she's not doing whole events where I'm going to tell you about this person and tell you about what racism is.
Now she did bring up to Kyle now, and I know this was her sophomore season. This is her sophomore season.
Yeah,
she did bring up to Kyle that it was offensive to her for Kyle to have her. It was a charity thing that she.
Yes,
remember this.
She did bring it up because Andy asked Kyle at the reunion because Andy is messy. He asked her,
would you have said that to one of the white?
Did you get Garcelle's money? Garcelle's money. Garcelle's donation come through, and Kyle, because they were at beef, of course. Yeah. I don't think it was racial, but of course they're on the show. She's like, no, Garcelle's check didn't come through, and Garcelle took it as a racial thing, and she did make it a little bit of a racial thing, but it was blown over because it was not racial. No fan watching that show ever equated to racism. They said, just because it was drama, and Kyle took the moment to shade her.
So here's the thing, the issue I have with that, where we kind of say where we say it's just not racial, but we don't personally know those people. And for me, this is why people that are not of color should be educated, because you are inherently racist.
Amen.
You are inherently, without no cap, you are inherently.
But people don't want to hear that, Isaiah.
Right, and it doesn't.
It's hurtful.
A bad, right? It's that's not nice. No, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you are inherently.
Yes, the same way I am inherently misogynist.
So I can't, because I'm a male. Bingo. So that's the other thing is, just like we have to be taught to make sure that we are equating women with us and that we are not above them, right? Is the same way somebody not of color you do need to be checked sometimes and told that that's not appropriate, or why that might have hurt me on a different level than it hurt you,
But
because
I
maybe
like the
you
way
shouldn't be
Garcelle
saying
did
something.
it.
Bingo, because it
But it
wasn't
wasn't racial. My thing is everything's not racial, and that wasn't racial. That was just being shady, and it was
but we
shady.
don't but we
I
don't
It
know
wasn't
when
Colin.
Garcelle
racial. It
But
said
we
what
wasn't
don't
she
know
racial to
Colin
said,
me.
personally to say that.
When Garcelle said what she said, it made sense
Yeah.
because again, Garcelle was talking about those racial stereotypes,
Stereotypes, of course.
Right.
and it made sense. And once,
Right.
and I don't think that the lady was
Is
that she that
saying it
she
because she was black. Right.
yes,
Right.
Garcelle explained it in a kind of way
Mm,
that because of this already set stereotype about people that look like me,
mm,
it came off that way. And she asked her that question, which was, I think it was a valid question. Would
mm,
you have said this if I was a white person?
right. Because that's, and also because that's how she felt, because, and again, every black person's different. Personally, there are certain things or certain conversations where if somebody says something to me, I'm like, did you say that? And that just comes with, for me, that just sometimes comes with the black experience. There
Yep.
are things I'm going to wonder if you said that to me because of that. Even though we don't want to make everything racial, sometimes it is,
But
because
it,
we were
whew,
created in a,
Some white
we were
people,
in a,
child.
there's certain things that white people cannot say to me that I would allow black people to say to me. One of those things is what is that word when they say them, or what is it, them,
uh,
or you people, excuse me.
oh, that.
If a white person says you people to me, I'm going to say, wait a minute, what do you mean, you people? There are certain things that sound different coming out of a white person's mouth, whether they're racist or prejudiced or not,
Right.
than it does from a person of color. And again, me being a man, there's certain things that come out of my mouth as a man that sounds different coming out of a mouth of a woman.
Right.
And even as a cisgender man, there are some things that sound different coming out of my mouth than coming out of a trans person's mouth to another trans person. Because I also, due to the nature of society, I'm also inherently transphobic.
Mhm.
And we grew up inherently homophobic as well in this society.
Right.
So
Because we
there
were
there are
originally,
certain things that sound different coming out of a white, because of, again, because of the institution and the culture that we were raised in. It does sound different. So there is certain talk that I will allow and will digest differently from people of color that white people do not have that right, and I do not give them that pass.
right.
I'm
Of
sorry.
course, of course, and I understand it. Understand it. I'm the same way. It's
Mhm.
certain things that they cannot say, but
Mhm.
I just feel like everything is not racial, and I feel like that's a problem, becoming a problem, especially when we watching it on reality television, because every moment is not racial. Like it was like it was like okay, like on Basketball Wives when OG was on the show with Evelyn and the girls, because the girls didn't vibe her and they really weren't feeling her. She turned into a whole racial thing that lasted 2 seasons. It made it seem as though girls were being racist or colorist towards her because they didn't vibe. And it was because
Mhm.
people cannot like you. You cannot like someone. It doesn't mean they're racist. That means it doesn't mean they're both. It doesn't mean it's a racial thing. I
Well,
cannot
you
like
know how I
somebody
feel
and it
about
doesn't
this,
mean racial.
Jasper. That's all, folks. We're ending the podcast right
So
now.
no, we're not
Not
because
right
that
now.
that's not racial and it's a lot of reaching going on in terms of when there's a racial moment and actually racist. Right, a racial moment when it's a non-racial moment where racism is being used as a tool and as a weapon to destroy someone's livelihood and career, and
It's
that
like
moment was
crying wolf.
done.
I hear what you're saying.
It's
It could
like
be like
crying
crying
wolf.
wolf.
I
You
agree.
cry
Yeah, like
racism,
oh, she
racism,
called me
racism.
oh like if a white woman called a black woman a bitch, and a black woman called her a bitch. The black woman's gonna say, "Oh, this white woman called me a bitch," and now she's racist. But you just call her a bitch, so it's like it can't be
It
you
feels
can't
But
different
be.
can
though.
I? But can I say
But it's the same
something?
word.
Can I say something though about that? And this is the problem though with reality TV is I can't watch a show and perceive who that person is honestly in every aspect of their lives. So I can't call out and say somebody is or is not racist based on what they said in that one instant. So I could just be like, okay, well, she just really might not like her, right? To your point, Jasper. But then on the other hand, I could also be like, well, I've never met this person before in my life. I'm just watching them on TV. You might be running around with swastikas. You know what I'm saying? Like, and all kinds of other, like paraphernalia. Like, I have no idea who this person actually is off of this program. So I can't make an actual valid judgment call because I don't know you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know you.
But you can't. But you can't. But you are. But you're watching them on for an hour. So your judgment is based on what you see on the show every week.
True.
So my judgment is based on what I see and what I see from the storyline and from what's going on. To me, it's not right. It's not a racial thing, or to me, it wasn't that deep to take it to a racial route.
I agree with that.
So I
Like,
just think some things can be overblown, and it's not necessary because it takes a seriousness out of racism and racial issues when it's used as a tool, weapon on a reality show or integrated into drama. Like it's real racism outside in real life.
Like
So why
actual.
use it as a storyline for drama? Like,
But it goes back to what the topic is: producers using this.
Mm-hmm.
yes.
I don't blame a lot of the cast members. Sometimes are shocked and confused and bewildered about what the hell is happening, because I think producers are using these isms to capitalize and make good entertainment.
Oh,
Of course.
100%.
And my struggle as a person of color, because before I'm anything else, I am Black first, second, and third.
Loop.
My struggles as a person of color, especially in this raggedy ass country, should not be exploited for television. These nasty stereotypes that men of color, women of color have been killed and hung and murdered and raped for are not entertainment.
Absolutely.
Because of these understand these racial stereotypes are embedded in the DNA of our society. And lots of people, generations of people have been hurt physically, psychologically, spiritually, in a multitude of ways. I think this is be a good time for us to stop. And again, everybody, thank you for listening. Make sure that you like and follow us on Spotify. We are also on Breaker, on Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Public.